So we have sunshine at Chateau de Razac today, which is nice to see. Still really cold in the house. We have opened the windows because it's actually a lot warmer outside than it is in, hopefully bringing some heat in. But what we are doing is we're scraping back the driveway. There's a lot of mud that's come down the road from the last couple of days. So as you can see, we've started pulling back some of the mud. We're trying to get some of the original hardcore, get back down to that. We're quite lucky in the respect that the driveway diverts all the water away from the chateau and down into the valley, and it's certainly away from the manor house and Maison Donald. However, it got particularly muddy for the vehicles coming in and out, so we're just trying to create some space so that on the next rainfall, hopefully we wouldn't have so much mud. And we have hit hardcore, which is a good thing. It's a good base for us to deal with. If you look at the turning here on the section of driveway, we have quite a lot of mud here, which would just show you what we've been contending with. We've got some other machinery arriving, so we need to make sure that there's no potholes in the roadway and just try to keep the driveway as clear as possible. So this is just the outside of the manor house, the pigsties. You can see the roofs where they've collapsed, so we'll be using a lot of those pan tiles crushed up on the driveway, which will just add and be work as a base of hardcore basically. So this is where the driveway splits. Originally the chateau entrance would be down here. We're going to recreate this at some point, and there'll be a driveway that comes around the back and front of the chateau. This is one of the other outbuildings, which at a later time will convert into a yoga studio and an events hall. It's in pretty good condition, the roof's good. We just need to put a new floor in and replace some windows or some barn doors with some larger glazed windows, I think. And then here, just scratching back the driveway. So the water nicely runs down this way through, and then we have an incline on the drive which does protect the manor house. There's various outbuildings here which have been used as a cattle store in the past. We'll be using it for other animals. There's another 2 cottages just here at the back, which we'll show you another day. And then as we come along, directly in front of us we have Maison Donald and the manor house, which then wraps around to the old farmyard, and to the left we have the chateau. So we can see that there's some hardcore here. It does wrap its way round in front of the chateau, part of the formal gardens, and then it comes around the north side as well, and then round to the formal entrance as a driveway. We haven't exposed the formal drive yet because we've got enough going on with the manor house, but that will be our intention, that this will end up being the access to the manor house and to Maison Donald, and that the chateau will be accessed by its own driveway where the formal gates are at the top of the drive. Flynn's loving being outside. And here we are. We're going to be creating a bank here, just to give Maison Donald a little bit of privacy, and possibly at some point some parking along here so that the parking doesn't actually come too close to the actual building, so that we have a nice sized garden, and also that the cars are concealed. A lot of problems with renovating buildings is that the garden areas were never designed for parking or for the amount of cars that we expect to have these days. So my interest here is to make sure that the actual cars don't become dominant on the site, so that they can be in a place where they're easily accessible, but they're not on top of the buildings. We also have some friends coming this afternoon or this evening to stay for a few days. They have also a YouTube channel, TNT Adventures. They've been traveling around Europe for the last couple of months, and they're working their way back up now, and they're coming to stay with us for a few days and hopefully make us tea. Hello, Charlton.
Hello.
We'd like to know what you're up to today.
I'm cleaning around this beam.
Okay.
Cutting,
Pardon?
using a hammer and chisel.
Right.
And a multi-tool down
Multi-tool, okay.
there to cut everything off for Andy to then do what he needs to do.
To cover the beam up?
Yeah, he's covering it up. I don't know how he's covering it up.
Right, okay. Nice. Have a good afternoon. So this is what my day has been looking like today. Researching hinges for the new kitchen, which Andy is about to make. We've been coming up with various concepts over the last few weeks, and Andy did a rough sketch a couple of nights ago of where our sink will be. The idea here is to keep things very simple, very light, and we found a large Belfast sink in one of the outbuildings not being used, so we did think that it would be a good opportunity to fit that in and have a bit of history come back to the property. I wanted a very simple kitchen. I didn't want something that was overly complicated, but I like the idea of using timber. We've chosen to use chestnut. It's a local wood that they machine here locally, so it's easy for us to source, and it does have a really nice grain to it. So the idea this has developed, so as you walk into the kitchen, the far left-hand side, this area would be the main area for the kitchen with the sink, and then opposite there would be some form of cupboard, which looks a bit different to the actual other side of the kitchen, with a fridge, a freezer, and a small cupboard above. We want to have an individual freezer that's not overly big, but is just enough to house our raw dog food, so that when we arrive and we come backwards and forwards, that there's always a stock of raw food for the dog, and that we can shut down the house, and that we have a feed that solely does the freezer. So that would be the only thing alongside the security cameras that would be working on the property. We've then developed further. Andy was talking about this and saying that he thought the upper part of this unit was quite heavy, and I kind of agreed to him once he had pointed it out, and he drew this up last night, which is a much lighter, a smaller upper part with some shelves either side, which I feel looks and feels really nice. Actually, I'm very happy with it. So I actually quite like this concept, and Andy is going to finalize it over the next day or so with a cutting list, so that we can then go to the local mill and get the wood cut to the dimensions, so that he can start building in the workshop. The cooker that I'm eventually looking at is something that works off timber. So the idea here, probably not this color, it will be a lighter color I think, is that the right hand side of the stove has two ovens here, a warming plate, and then a fire which basically heats this right hand side. You have two hot plates as well, so it's a bit like an Aga, but it's run off wood. And then the left hand side is electric, so we have a 2 oven electric side with hot plates. That's going to go on the far back wall, so as you enter the kitchen from outside, this will be a focal point of the kitchen, with then the kitchen units running on the left and right hand side. So if we go through to the kitchen, I can show you. So this will be the breakfast area. So it's going to be split in two, purely because we have these stairs going up into the manoir. Probably purchase a dresser, find a dresser for this wall. There will be a door here going off into the barn, eventually a boot room. This here will be on this wall here. You can see the waste pipe and the water pipes coming in. The oven will be on this wall, And then to the right, we will have this dresser style cupboard just here with the fridge and a small unit to finish it off with a radiator here just in case we don't light the oven. So that's our concept. The worktops, we're just researching as to whether we can find some copper. I like the idea of using copper on the work surfaces. It's a natural material, it's antimicrobial, antibacterial, and it will have a quirky color to it as it ages. And I think it will really offset quite nicely to the stone that we're exposing on the walls. We've done some altering about in the dining room. We've put an oversized table in here today just so that we can have an area for eating and also an area where we can actually work and research. Obviously, both Charlton and I are using computers quite a lot of the time, and we need a space to sit down, and it's nice to do it around the table, but often when we're preparing food as well, the laptops get thrown around. So the laptops can be at the end of a table without getting in the way. And there's the puppy. And then outside, Andy's just finishing off the driveway. It's really warm outside today. It's absolutely beautiful. Flynn, this way. As you can see, he is just tidying up, pulling up the bank, just so that we have a slightly larger turning area here. And it was an area where when we were cutting down all the foliage, because at the beginning of the year we couldn't actually, the manoir wasn't actually exposed because of all the foliage in the garden and so on, and there was a wisteria that was growing and totally taken over. We used this area as a dumping ground because we weren't allowed to do fires until the winter. So now that's done, we started burning last week and we've got the majority of it gone. So now it's just a matter of tidying things up. We said there's royalty arriving today, and here they are. It's Lady TRN in her very sexy auto trail thingamawopsits. She comes, zooming up.